You know, it seems like there are two types of depression, and having been through this and still wrestle with it, I think about it all the time. I mean, those of you who go through depression, you know that's when we sit around and think about why am I depressed and how did I get out of it this time and how do I get out of it next time, and you know what's the magic bullet that I have found. And normally it's never really there, but it seems generally, at least, I mean, and I think I could back this up from, you know, others who have gone through it or classes that I've taken at seminary on it, but it seems that there are two types of depression, and one is circumstantial. It's just things that happen to you and they pile up, and you know, it's life. It's things that maybe you can control and maybe you can't. Maybe it's things that happen to you from the outside, or maybe things that you're doing to yourself, but it's still circumstantial. It's something that, you know, as long as I change this, or as long as I solve this problem, as long as I, you know, can find the right doctor for my kid, as long as I can find the right way to relate to my wife, as long as I can make more money in order to pay these bills, or, you know, all kinds of things that bring about circumstantial depression. I mean, death of a loved one, loss of a job, just on and on we go. I'm not saying those things are easier necessarily, because, like I said, a lot of times you just can't change it, even if it's your own fault. You can't find the strength within yourself to be someone that you're not currently, and even though you pray for it, even though you really want it, and it doesn't seem to be that it's God's will at this point to change your life and cause those circumstances to be different. And that's one type, circumstantial depression. And then there's more of a, I don't know, maybe a clinical depression, something that it really has to do with the chemistry of your brain, and sometimes you're born with it. Sometimes you develop it because, you know, circumstantial depression could eventually bring about this type of chemical imbalance that you can't correct. And the chemical depression is something you really can't, in any sense, do anything about. I mean, there's some things. I mean, there's little things that you can grab a hold of in your mind. And hold on to. There's definitely drugs that you can take that can help you through it and give you stability. But the clinical depressions, those types of things that you just can't find any solution, and you can't find any reason for it to happen. And whenever you're in depression, you know, both of them say the same thing. Both clinical and circumstantial depression, I think, at least, the two biggest lies that it tells me every time I'm in one or the other, and I think I've only been in the clinical one time before, but circumstantial a lot. But every time, no matter what, it says the same thing, and this is why they're both called depression, and they both feel very similar, and they both say this. Number one is, you're the only one who's really going through this. That's the first lie that depression tells you. And then the second lie is worse, but just a little bit worse. And that is, this will never end. Those two types, I mean, they just play off each other, you know, and you feel like you're all alone. Whenever you feel like you're all alone, it's just like, how can I get through it if nobody else has ever been through this? Same thing that happens whenever you're going through doubt and you're doubting your faith, and you think you've come up with some type of objection, either emotionally or intellectually or whatever else, and you think, I'm the only one who's ever come up with this, I'm the only one who's ever seen it. If I talk to anybody about it, then they'll fall down the same trap. And so this is just a horrid circumstance that I find myself in. In depression, it's the same way. That's what my sister Angie was. I mean, if I had known, if I knew then what I know now, this is the best I would be able to say. I want to have a lot of other answers. I mean, gosh, I have less answers. I thought I had all the answers back then, but at least this, I would try to assure her that she's not alone, and that there's so many people out there that really are going through this. It doesn't make the pain any less in the sense of just the depth of it, the weight of it, but it does take away a lot of the fear that can sometimes accompany depression, because you think you're all alone, because you think you're by yourself. And that's the best I would have for her. What happened? Angie, you're not alone, I promise. And then I would say, of course, I would say this will end. One way or the other, it can end. I'm not saying we have the solution yet for it ending. Sometimes it's just time as your brain repairs itself, and sometimes it's going and getting on some type of medication and finding the right medication and keeping at it until you find it. And sometimes it's something else. It's finding a new joy that you didn't know how to find, but it just comes into your life. But normally time just begins to take care of these things. And for some people, though, they just have to deal with it their entire life, and there's nothing you can say, because it's not going to ever end. And those are the things that scare me, because I don't know who I'm talking to. I don't know whether or not a person's depression will ever end. Most of the time it does. Most of the time, I'd say 95% of the time, eventually, whether through time, medication, or circumstances, it will self-correct, or it will correct itself through the chemical changes in your brain that you bring about, you find. But I wasn't at this point whenever Angie was going through her depression. My sister, who took her life. I didn't know then what I know now, but I'm not saying it would have really been any better, because I can't, most of the time, whenever I'm in my state of depression, I can't find my own way out. I get lost real easily and for a long time. Not as bad as back in 2010, but I can go there. I can go there and I don't want to get up, don't want to get out of bed, don't want to do anything except for just be depressed. I don't want to be depressed. I wish I could snap and get out of it, but it just sucks you in.